Episode L, The View of the Hebrews. View of the Hebrews is an 1823 book authored by Ethan Smith, a Congregationalist minister from Vermont, who claimed that Native Americans were descendants of the 10 lost tribes of Israel, a widely accepted theory in the early 19th century. The book has been scrutinized by numerous scholars of Mormon history, including LDS Church General Authority B. H. Roberts and Joseph Smith biographer Fawn M. Brody. They have pointed out striking similarities between View of the Hebrews and the Book of Mormon, which was published just 7 years later in 1830. Let's delve into View of the Hebrews and explore why it remains a source of controversy within the Mormon Church. The author, Ethan Smith, suggested that Native Americans were descendants of the 10 lost tribes of Israel. According to Mormon historian Richard Lyman Bushman, this theory was held by many theologians and laymen of his day who tried to fit new populations into what they understood of biblical history, which they felt to encompass the world. These tribes were believed to have disappeared after being taken captive by the Assyrians in the 8th century BCE. Mormon historian Terrell Givens calls the work an inelegant blend of history, excerpts, exhortation, and theorizing. During Smith's day, speculation about the 10 lost tribes was heightened, both by a renewed interest in biblical prophecy and by the belief that the Aboriginal peoples who had been swept aside by European settlers could not have been the same as the ancient people who created the sophisticated earthwork mounds found throughout the Mississippi Valley and southeastern North America. Smith attempted to rescue Indians from the contemporary myth of mound builders being a separate race by making the indigenous people potential converts worthy of salvation. "If our natives be indeed from the tribes of Israel," Smith wrote, "American Christians may well feel that one great object of their inheritance here is that they may have a primary agency in restoring those lost sheep of the house of Israel." Fawn M. Brody, the pioneering historian who wrote the first critical biography of Joseph Smith, argued that his theory of the Hebraic origin of the American Indians was derived chiefly from View of the Hebrews. While Brody acknowledged in 1945 that it might never be conclusively proven that Joseph Smith had read View of the Hebrews before writing the Book of Mormon, she asserted that the striking parallelisms between the two books hardly leave a case for mere coincidence. I will have to argue Brody's point, as Joseph Smith did acknowledge View of the Hebrews in an 1842 letter, which was later published in the Times and Seasons newspaper. In this letter, known as the Wentworth Letter, Smith recognized the existence of the book and noted its parallels with the Book of Mormon. While he acknowledged the similarities between the two works, he did not claim to have read or been influenced by View of the Hebrews during the translation of the Book of Mormon. The letter was addressed to John Wentworth, who had requested a history of the church. Smith briefly discussed the origins of the church and the Book of Mormon, mentioning View of the Hebrews as another work that speculated on the origins of Native Americans. This acknowledgement has fueled debates among both critics and defenders of Smith. Oliver Cowdery was a member of Ethan Smith's congregation when View of the Hebrews was published. Given their familial ties, being third cousins, though some sources claim they were second cousins, it's notable that both Cowdery and Joseph Smith claimed they had never met before 1829 in Harmony. However, the close proximity and Cowdery's role as the primary scribe for the Book of Mormon suggest he had more than sufficient access to View of the Hebrews. It's not far-fetched to consider that he and Smith might have drawn from View of the Hebrews as part of their literary sources alongside the King James Bible during the creation of the Book of Mormon. Both View of the Hebrews and the Book of Mormon extensively quote Old Testament prophecies, particularly from the book of Isaiah. They describe the future gathering of Israel, the restoration of the 10 lost tribes, and propose the migration of Old World peoples to the New World via a long sea journey. Both works suggest that this migration was driven by religious motives, leading to the division of migrants into civilized and uncivilized groups, with eventual long wars culminating in the destruction of the civilized by the uncivilized. They also assert that Native Americans are descendants of Israelites, with languages rooted in Hebrew, include a transition from monarchy to republican forms of government, and suggest that the gospel was preached in ancient America. Early Mormons sometimes cited View of the Hebrews to bolster the authenticity of the Book of Mormon. In the early 20th century, Mormon historian B. H. Roberts highlighted the striking parallels between the two works, suggesting that Joseph Smith might have used View of the Hebrews as a source, or at least been influenced by the popular 19th century ideas presented in it. In 1922, when church leaders requested Roberts to examine the similarities between View of the Hebrews and the Book of Mormon, Roberts produced a confidential report. This report, later published as Studies of the Book of Mormon, identified 18 striking points of similarity between the two works. Based upon his research, Elder B.H. Roberts came to the following conclusion on the View of the Hebrews. Did Ethan Smith's View of the Hebrews furnish structural material for Joseph Smith's Book of Mormon? It has been pointed out in these pages that there are many things in the former book that might well have suggested many major things in the other. Not a few things merely, one or two, or a half dozen, but many, and it is this fact of many things of similarity and the cumulative force of them that makes them so serious a menace to Joseph Smith's story of the Book of Mormon's origin. B. H. Roberts, Studies of the Book of Mormon, p. 240. Is it merely coincidence, or something more, that Joseph Smith's claimed first vision occurred just 101 days after the release of View of the Hebrews in 1823? This time frame was more than sufficient for the book to reach the Palmyra district, giving Joseph ample opportunity to hear about its content. Remember, both Joseph Smith and Oliver Cowdery attended religious revivals in the burned-over district of New York at the same period, a hotbed of religious fervor. Though there is no direct evidence, it's conceivable that they met at one of these revivals and began collaborating on what would become the Book of Mormon. This might explain why they later tried to distance themselves from one another in April 1829. Richard C. Roberts wrote in his article, View of the Hebrews, alleged relationships of View of the Hebrews to the Book of Mormon have attracted interest periodically through the years. Ethan Smith's book was published in the adjoining county west of Windsor County, where Joseph Smith was born and lived from 1805 to 1811. Nevertheless, there is no evidence that Joseph Smith ever knew anything about this book. Detractors have pointed to several parallels between the two books, but others point to numerous unparallels. Do not forget, Joseph did mention the book in 1842 that we know of. Could it be that before Cowdery arrived to serve as scribe, Joseph was attempting to recreate View of the Hebrews from memory or from second-hand accounts, but struggled under the guidance of Emma and Martin Harris? With Cowdery by his side, Cowdery, who hailed from Leroy, Vermont, where Ethan Smith taught, and who worked as an assistant typesetter, he might have remembered the contents of View of the Hebrews far better than Joseph, enabling him to help complete the Book of Mormon. This theory, while speculative, offers a compelling narrative for the creation of the Book of Mormon. In conclusion, the striking parallels between View of the Hebrews and the Book of Mormon, combined with the historical context and connections between Joseph Smith and Oliver Cowdery, raise compelling questions about the origins of the latter text. While direct evidence of Smith's or Cowdery's use of View of the Hebrews in crafting the Book of Mormon remains elusive, the similarities and timing are difficult to ignore. This suggests that the creation of the Book of Mormon may have been influenced by the popular ideas and literature of the time, including Ethan Smith's work. Whether through direct access or shared cultural and religious currents, View of the Hebrews likely played a significant role in shaping the narrative that would become foundational to the Mormon faith. Next video, I will take a look at the Spalding theory. Thank you so kindly for watching. This is the Ex-Mormon Informant signing off for today.